Summit, and I'm super excited to be talking with Vivian Acquah. As an inclusive workplace wellness advocate, Vivian advises managers on how to keep their team members engaged, energized, and safe in a sustainable manner. Vivian, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to talk with me today.
Thank you for inviting me, Rob. I am so excited to share whatever it is that you want the audience to know, right? It's about the audience.
I appreciate it. So can you just talk a little bit about what is a workplace wellness advocate?
Yeah, so the workplace wellness advocate, and I call myself inclusive workplace wellness advocate because workplace wellness, if people aren't feeling well, they are not going to be productive and they won't be able to help out their customers, right? Or help out their clients. And tied into that, the work within diversity, equity, and inclusion, because I believe that workplace wellness and diversity, equity, inclusion, short DEI, cannot go without the other. It's basically the heart. It's basically heart elements of the company, and that is sometimes missed out. So I come in for workplace wellness, but I do add some elements regarding DEI and vice versa, because that's the best way to get the most out of your people and to really create that inclusive environment where people feel like they belong and can be themselves in the workplace.
Awesome. And so is this this is your own business?
Yeah,
is that
this
right?
is my own business. Yeah.
How did you get started from the business perspective? I think certainly working in DEI in the space, there's a lot of different ways that you can affect change with organizations. Yeah. You can work for a large company and work from within. You can work for a consultancy, but you kind of went off on your own. And so, so what's the background with how that came about?
Yeah, so I used to be a finance/IT consultant for a very long time, but when I became pregnant, I had to make that announcement with my then managers. And let's say that the news wasn't accepted very well. It didn't land very well. And that was my first encounter of dealing with exclusion. But it was a first encounter where not only was I impacted, but my future son was also impacted. So I had to deal with the maternal bias. That is such a, it's causing a way for women to leave the workplace sooner than later. And I wanted to use my example as an example for companies to do better. And that's how I landed into the domain of workplace wellness and the domain of DEI.
Awesome. And so how long have you actually been running your business?
Yeah, so I've been in business since the end of 2014, and COVID did something with my brain. So I'm guessing now that 7 years active.
About. That's perfectly fine. How old's your son?
My son is 7. My son is 7. He's becoming 8. Yes, that's a good way to calculate. Yes, he's becoming 8. And you also asked me something about my why, and everything that I do right now, my son is my mirror to advocate for a better workplace, because he's now 7.5 and realizing what happened last year. I've been doing the work regarding inclusion for a very long time now, but realizing that I had to explain to a 6-year-old at the time what happened in the States, that's something that no other parent and no child should be able to ask their parent, and no parent should be able to explain what happened. But my son only asked me one question. And that question was, are you going to be safe, Mom, after I shared with him that George Floyd died because of the color of his skin? And he's biracial, so his dad is white. And that triggered me. It triggered me in a huge way. And a few days later, I noticed that Alexis Ohanian, so the former director of Reddit, and also known as the husband of Serena Williams, made a bold move, which inspired me to do something similar. So Alexis Ohanian stepped down from his board, the C-level, because he wanted to make space and place for a person of color. And I don't have the budget of Alexis Ohanian nor Serena Williams, but what I do have is a network of people who believe in the similar values of inclusion, And that's how HeySummit and Amplify DEI got born. Just out of one question my son asked, that's how everything got started.
I mean, that is equally devastating and inspiring, you know? I mean, I'm very curious now about more than that. But if how did then you parlay that onto the Amplify DEI Summit? I'd love to hear kind of how did that question then lead to the summit happening?
Yeah, so the first few days I really had to process what my son asked, because imagine you being asked that question and also telling basically a lie, because I cannot guarantee my safety. But I also realized that here I am advocating online, like LinkedIn Live. And in the meantime, I've done so many live sessions that I have met worldwide at least 60 plus people in the days before the lockdown, and realized that I need to do something with HeySummit. I need to do something, but I don't know how. And I don't know, this is the first time that I've done anything. But for me, it was important to create a vibe, an atmosphere where the speaker would be centered, because it's the speakers that are going to lure in the audience. And if I don't share the love with them, if I don't create that inclusive environment which I hope that, they will inspire companies, but which I hope that companies will provide, that made me realize that, yes, I can do that. So a few weeks before this idea came to mind, I did a conversation about Amplify DEI and went back to, this is the summit title. This is the title that I should use, because this is what I want. Even though we are in a lockdown, that doesn't mean that we should stop the initiatives to create an inclusive environment. We should even do more of the work that we need to do now, especially now that mothers are leaving the workplace because it's too much for them during this lockdown, especially that people who are underrepresented are being overlooked. And if I can use my network, or ask my network if they want to join me in the amplification, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. So I ended up, and that's something that is a valuable lesson, I ended up hosting a summit with in total 69 people. For someone who's doing that the first time,
it's a lot.
I would never recommend that. Even though it was pre-recorded, I would never recommend. But then again, my heart is in it. My passion is in it. And also the main goal was to plant seeds now, so that my son will be valued for the talented young man he is by that time he becomes an adult. I don't want him to be seen for the color of his skin. I just want him to be seen for the value added value that he can bring into companies and bring into clients. And I have to start right now.
Fantastic. What was the feedback? How did it go?
The feedback was, well, I was a little bit overwhelmed, thinking that in my little bubble, I was hoping for 30 people, as in 30 speakers. And that's how I ended up with 69 in total. And also the feedback that the speakers provided was, I did my best to create that inclusive environment. And I have been to events where I was invited to become an event speaker, and felt like there is a gap in between the moment that you're being invited and the moment that you are speaking. Even though it was pre-recorded, I still kept them updated in between, not every week. When the summit was closer, yes, I did that every week, but the time in between, every 2 weeks. Share just a teaser of what I'm doing, or how the page looks like, and how they can imagine themselves being profiled. Because again, it's about the speakers providing that safe space and also that plateau for the speakers to be able to shine. I cannot do the summit without them. So I have to highlight them, and I have to treat them as the inclusive leader that I am. I have to treat them like they are part of the team as well.
Totally. Absolutely. And you're now planning your next one?
Yes, I'm planning my next one again. So let's say I'm doing one summit per year because that's what my sanity can handle. How many speakers are going to end up? I don't know. I will put out a call for a proposal very soon, and we'll see where it may lead me. So last year, it was all pre-recorded. The reaction was amazing. 900 people ended up joining the summit, which was a freemium. So I had free elements and I had paid elements in it. And this year I'm going to do a freemium as well, but I'm going to add live panel talks as well. Live panel talks.
A little bit more interaction.
Yeah.
So how do summits, or how did this summit, and maybe the plan for the next one, fit into your business as a whole? Do you see it more as a awareness piece? Is it about thought leadership? Is it actually about qualifying potential customers?
It was, for me personal, it went above and beyond of my expectation. The reason why I said that was I was the host and the producer, but it also put me in a space where I thought I wasn't ready to be put in. So let's say I wouldn't, calling myself an expert, it's not something that I do often, but it put me in a certain space with other leaders who I look up to. And people underestimate my nerdiness. That's why I have my robot. I am totally geeking out about the processes, about how I can invite the speakers, but also how to keep my own sanity by providing, these frequent updates, of sometimes bi-weekly updates about what's happening, what are you seeing, what are we doing right now, to just keep that engagement. Because when you're hosting or organizing a summit, think about you're basically running a business. And you want to keep your people engaged, because the disengagement in the workplace and also with events is real. If you don't share that love in between, you lose them. And eventually you will get, what, did I sign up for this summit? I had that with 2 summits that I signed up with. They never reached out in between. And then all of a sudden, a week before, I was supposed to promote, and I felt so disengaged. So when you join my summit, know that I love you. I love the speakers more. I show love more to the speakers than the audience, because it's the speakers that are going to uplift the summit.
That's a really good way of viewing it. I think that a lot of times people think the hardest part is to get a speaker to agree to speak, and then that's
it is.
yeah. But then I think oftentimes then they're maybe let down a bit by the speakers not sharing the event, not engaging with it, maybe not feeling like they are an owner in a sense. So as you say, you got to show them love, but you also got to show them attention.
Yeah. And it caused other speakers to come back to me and say, Vivian, I'm not getting the love that I got from your summit. So in a way, I created some kind of FOMO for them to maybe join back, or at least know that this should be the quality of stand. Because if I did not get, let's say, Lisa Nichols, who is my all-time role model favorite. But then again, you should treat every speaker as you would treat Lisa Nichols.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, inclusion. Right. So specifically thinking about HeySummit as a platform, are there specific elements or specific tools or features that you found particularly helpful?
HeySummit has, up to now, has been the only summit where I'm a freelancer, and I did a lot on my own. I did had a few people who helped me, but let's say 70% was me, myself, and I. And having HeySummit to back me up and to provide that ease, that sense of sanity, and also the support team. I think the support team know me by my incredible GIF style that I used to send them during the few weeks ahead of the summit. But the support is amazing, and the community is amazing, and the tool is just amazing. So I'm looking forward to more integrations where we are able to set up virtual booths. But beside that, the automation, I could sleep well.
Great. That's great. We love to hear that.
Yeah.
So Vivian, thank you so much for taking a few minutes
Thank
to
you.
talk about your fantastic event and upcoming one as well. Folks, you can find out more about Vivian and her work at Viva La Vive, that's VIVALAVIVE.com, or by following her on Twitter at Viva La Vive NL, or you can search and connect with her on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah,
Thank you so much again, Vivian.
Thank you, Rob, for having me, and good